y'all. Before we dive in, a quick heads up.
This show is raw, real, and definitely not rated PG.
We're talking about adult themes, sexual content, and the kind of stuff you probably don't want blasting through your speakers at work or around your kids.
So grab some headphones, pour your drink of choice, and get comfy.
Oh, and just so we're clear, we are not licensed therapists, counselors, or sex coaches.
Sex
Not
coaches.
sex couches.
We're just a couple of people sharing our lives, experiences, and sexy adventures, and ethical non-monogamy. So with that, pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Monogamy. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pris.
And today we have a guest episode that honestly, I wish existed about 10 years ago, because Pris and I did the poly thing from about 2016 to 2021. And I'm going to be straight with you. We were flying blind. We couldn't find good resources to save our lives. And the poly Facebook groups, forget it. Don't even get me started.
Oh, yeah. Don't.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
You'd ask a genuine question, like a real honest question, because you're trying to figure something out. And half the group would just come at you like you were an idiot. Just Google it. Cool, man. Super helpful. Thank you.
It was very discouraging. Like, we were just trying to learn and nobody was there to help us.
That's it, man. That's exactly why today's guests matter, because this is what we needed back then and didn't have. Although the show did exist back then, we didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Our guests today have been putting out real, no judgment, actually useful content about non-monogamy for over a decade. And I genuinely think if we had found them back in 2016, some of those years would have looked a lot different. But hey, better late than never, right? Before we get into it, though, if you're new here, welcome. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening so you never, ever miss an episode, because you're going to love us. And if you've been rocking with us for a while, you know the deal. Leave us a review. Share the show with someone who needs it. It costs you nothing, and it means the world to us.
That's right.
Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and bring them in from Multiamory podcast, Dedeker, Jase, and Emily. Welcome to the show, y'all.
Welcome, guys.
Thanks
for having us.
I think that might be my favorite way that we've ever been introduced. That was really cool.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
It's
He
kinda,
is a hype man.
I like to build everybody up, but I didn't really have to try too hard because you guys, y'all came with a reputation.
Yeah.
And a
we
good
should
one.
get you on our show to just record our intro every single
There you
time.
go.
And,
There you
and have
go.
us up before every single episode.
And it's funny because everybody seems to like my voice, but my voice is of my nightmares. Like I don't want to hear it. I'd rather hear y'all's voices.
Isn't that the way it goes with your own voice, though?
I think
sure.
so. I don't think anybody likes their own voice. Although she disagrees.
I
She
like
says-
my voice.
She says that I like to hear
That's
myself
great.
talk.
He likes he loves his voice.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyways, I want to start somewhere that I think is a lot more fun than the usual intro stuff. So I was thinking if y'all could find some sort of order to tell us how the three of you actually came together and how y'all came to this podcast, how y'all ended up with Multiamory.
Yeah, so back many, many moons ago, all three of us were living in Los Angeles and did not know each other yet. But Jase and I, well, actually, all three of us were in the arts. We all were actors, performers, those types. I think generally you move to Los Angeles to become one of those things. And so Jase and I met actually doing a musical together in 2010. And one thing led to another. It was a showmance, and then it was a romance, and then we ended up living together for a couple years monogamously.
Mhm.
After some time, we realized, okay, maybe we want to open up, kind of see what else is out there, because I was very young at the time. You know, both of us, Jase, I think, had dabbled in non-monogamy before. You at least had like heard about it and were interested in it.
Kind of. I had, in
Yeah.
college, I had heard about the ethical slut because I saw it at a bookstore.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like you do.
But my sort of recovering Christian brain couldn't handle it at the time. And so at that time, I was kind of unpacking some of my hangups with like jealousy and possessiveness and things like that. And I do think I made some good progress back then. But at the time, it was kind of more of like oh, we can flirt with other people and maybe have threesomes sometimes or group stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
But that was many relationships ago. That was several years before meeting Emily. And since then, it had kind of been like, well, sure, that's a cool idea, but no one can actually do that. So, oh well, here we are.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we actually did. We started dating other people. I met somebody on OkCupid, and then that person's partner started dating Jase, and that person's partner was Dedeker. Dedeker had already been in her non-monogamous journey for quite a while. She, I think,
Like a
was a
couple
couple
years at
years
that
ahead
point?
of us. Yes, she was a couple years ahead
Oh,
of us,
wow.
which was great because then we had somebody who was a little bit more in the know, who actually like could tell us, okay, what are the good and bad things about what it is that we're doing. I was going to say that because you were a couple years ahead of us in your non-monogamous journey, at times I felt like, okay, we have somebody in the know. We have somebody who's like a little bit more seasoned, more of a veteran at this, who can help us out maybe a touch. Although, I don't know, I think we did pretty well like in those early years when we were all kind of like a quad, when it was me and Dedeker dating the same person. Both of us were with Jase, and then Dedeker and I were also together after a time. We kind of became this like fearsome foursome, and it was going great for a while.
I think there was some of that Zen beginner's mind where you don't know what you
Mm.
don't know, and maybe
Yeah.
some beginner's luck as well in the
Yeah.
way in the times when it was going well. But yeah, we learned a lot of hard lessons. We learned that quads tend to be pretty unstable as it is.
They said that you had 2 years ahead of them. So
Mhm.
were
Yes.
you single in that journey the 2 years before, or were you
Yeah.
already in a relationship?
Both, yes. Both,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. My introduction to non-monogamy, like I opened up a monogamous relationship with someone that I'd been with for like about 3 years or so. And it imploded within 6 months because we were in our early 20s. I was brand new to all of this. He was brand new to all of this. But for me, the important thing was that like even after that relationship imploded, I still had this sense of like I still want to do this. Like I didn't have that sense of like, ooh, failed experiment, time to retreat back to monogamy. I really had this deep sense of this feels really right for me, but now I need to figure out how to do it, how to actually do it, how to do it correctly. Right. So that
Wow.
sort of set me on that particular journey.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it was this sort of funny thing that like my partner at the time met Emily on OkCupid. And this was even before OkCupid was an app. This was still back when it was dating sites instead of dating apps.
Oh wow.
My
Oh,
partner
yes.
met Emily, and I think it was Emily who even suggested that like I might get along with her partner Jase, and so Jase and I connected, and so eventually the four of us, yeah, became like this little quad, and thought that we were hot shit, and thought that we had
Oh, yeah.
figured
We felt
out
like hot shit.
relationships. We felt like hot shit, and to be fair, in LA, it's like we'd roll up to parties, and people would be like, I think so impressed or bowled over
I
or
mean, I
scandalized.
would,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and I think because we felt like we were such hot shit, and because Jase was a big podcast fan, Jase was like, "We should record a podcast," and so yeah, the fourth member of our quad, like my former partner, like didn't want to get involved with the podcast, so it was just the three of us. And around the time that we started the podcast was when shit started to hit the fan and things started to fall apart
In a
within the
really
quad.
big way.
In a
Yeah.
big way. And yeah,
okay.
like it's a bit of a stereotype, but quads do tend to be unstable from what we found. But sort of the miraculous thing was, I mean, because like I broke up with my partner and Jason and Emily broke up. But like the weird thing that most people don't believe is that even through all of the drama, like we kept recording the podcast. Like we just
Yeah.
kind of kept showing up each
Yeah.
time. And that includes even times where it's like one of us would be crying, but then like still show up and record the show. And
For a while, we would usually cry after recording the episode.
some
Like,
crying
we'd-
after also.
Yeah, we'd have it together
Yeah.
during it.
I
and
would
then-
cry fairly often during too.
Mm.
I mean, therapeutic, y'all kind of had to. I mean, were y'all discussing your journey from?
Well,
I mean, I've
no,
heard
and I
some
think
of them, and
that's.
I was like, I didn't.
I think
Yeah, we were
that's an
not using the
important
podcast as
piece.
therapy.
Right.
Okay.
And that was
Yeah.
something that from early on, not really intentionally, but just what we gravitated toward was doing a show that was not about our own personal lives,
Yes.
but was
Yeah.
about sort of the concepts more broadly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what saved us, right? I think if the show were about our journey and we were trying to process that in real time, that just would have been too hard. We would have said, this sucks. We're done.
Yeah.
But I think because we were talking about these concepts more generally, it actually was helpful for us to kind of be talking about how do you deal with challenges? How do you communicate better? And again, we're still relatively newbies, even if we'd been doing it for,
Yeah.
1 to 3 years at that point. Like, we're still, relatively speaking, looking back, very newbie.
Yeah.
And a lot of our friends were also in that within their first couple of years range, right? And so that was sort of where the podcast started. And then I think later is when we moved to doing more like bringing in research studies and trying to make more of a like actual evidence-based research backed show. But at the time, it was kind of more based on just the community
Vibes.
wisdom and the vibes and what we'd learned
Now,
ourselves.
would you say that maybe y'all kind of healed through the podcast as you
I
went
think
along and you learned more about what this
Like,
is?
even without discussing it in the podcast, just
Mhm.
listening
Thinking about
and thinking
things in a different
yeah.
perspective, minus the emotion of what you're dealing with. Did that help heal you guys at all in that process?
I think it was absolutely beneficial for us to maintain our friendship with one another for sure. And also allowed us to have kind of coping mechanisms to help us through the difficult challenges because we were learning about a lot of things. We were making decisions to stick with the show and to make sure that that was a priority. And because of that, I think our friendship and our commitment to one another also became a priority as well. And we sort of moved through the challenges of the breakup. Jase and Dedeker were still together and they are still together now. But my breakup with the two of them and my breakup with my other partner as well. And I think all of that just helped us grow and helped us mature and helped us kind of move past it in a really beautiful way to what we are now.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Carrie Jenkins, who is a philosopher and an author, we've had her on our show a couple times. She, in her most recent book, she's a philosopher, but she's non-monogamous herself, and so she sometimes writes about those themes. But she talks about this concept. She calls it like eudaimonic love or eudaimonic purpose. In contrast to hedonic love or hedonic purpose, which is kind of based around what we think of like romantic love, right? Where it's just kind of like, pleasurable and nice and warm and fuzzy and stuff like that. And she talks about eudaimonic love kind of being this love that centers around like a shared purpose, right? And so that can be something like co-parenting with somebody, or it could be something like a creative project that you share with somebody. And I sometimes the way that I describe the relationship now between the three of us is that we're like this emotional triad co-parenting a podcast baby together, you know? And yeah, I do 100% think that I mean, I've seen this play out in my own personal relationships constantly that like when you get on every single week and like read about the latest relationship research and about healthy communication practice, like it's not always easy to apply, but those things do seep in, right? Like I do
Right.
think
Yeah,
all of my romantic relationships have directly
yeah.
benefited because it keeps it all top of mind and it prompts those conversations after you're done recording, right? Of like, what
Yeah.
did you think about
100%.
this? Or I think I see myself in this particular pattern, right? It keeps that channel very open, which is very nurturing for friendships and romantic partnership.
That's very true. From where we started, we've been in the lifestyle for 15 years, and I was in it actually before that. But our relationship is the longest we've ever been in, like, period, in our lives. And I remember kind of thinking, "Oh, I don't know if I wanna do this. I don't know if I wanna open up the relationship." But as we did, I had my ups and downs. The podcast has definitely helped me with the people that we get to talk to.
But our show is specifically our relationship.
Yeah.
Mm.
People who listen to our show, yeah, they'll listen to a guest on a Sunday show talk about ethical non-monogamy,
Mhm.
polyamory, swinging, whatever the topic may be. But our Wednesday shows are strictly just us, and it's our relationship. It's what we've been through. It's the
Yeah.
jealousies that we've experienced. It's the fights that we've had. There's been moments of heated passion on the show where tears are being shed because either revelations have come about or,
Mhm.
we're just rehashing things that were
Yeah.
kind of old wounds, but it's a real couple having real
I mean, I
conversations.
used to say I despise being poly. I'll never do it again. Like I don't want I will never I can't do that. I'm
And I'm
too
like,
jealous.
bummer, bro.
I'm too I'm too territorial, and then just recently I was like I don't want to put a label on it, but I am so up for that. I'm up for having my own little journey, figuring it out. But I'm still married.
And that's incredible because she said I've always been 6 steps ahead of her.
He's
Mm.
poly.
Um,
Like I'm the
and
reason he's like, nope.
I've been like this since I was in high school, and I just didn't know that there was a name for it.
Yeah.
So when I finally figured that out, it was like, "Oh, really? Like, I'm here now," but where we're really rooted is we got started in swinging,
Mhm.
and it's to realize that ethical non-monogamy is the umbrella for something as open sexually, but also open romantically, and just all of this area in between. I realize that a lot of people who are under that umbrella don't even know the right terms. They don't even
Mm.
know exactly what they are or what kind of label they want to slap on themselves, and things get kind of confusing and it gets a little weird. So it's always nice to talk to others like yourselves who can help clear these things up.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, that kind of leads me into our first question because I was real interested. You guys are pretty poly heavy, and we're pretty swing heavy, and the intersection of the two, I think, is
Mhm.
very thick, especially what we see on this end over here. So poly and swinging, same umbrella, really different vibes a lot of the time. Where do you see them actually overlap, and where do you see them go their separate ways?
Ooh, that's a great
Boy,
question.
that's a great question, and it's something that we definitely have talked about a fair amount. And anytime, of course, we're on a show that's more swinging focused, or we have guests on our show that are more focused on that, what's interesting for us to see over the 12-ish years that we've been doing our show now is how the walls between those two communities, I feel like, have come down quite a bit. Where when we started off, it was very much like we're a polyamory podcast, and we know swingers and we'll tolerate them, but like they're not as elevated as us. And then swingers, on the other hand, are like, yeah, these dumb kids and their polyamory thing, like they don't know how to have real relationships yet, so like they can mess around like this for now. And there was a little bit of that divide that I feel
Yeah.
like permeated both communities more. And I like to think our show has been part of bringing that down a little bit, because what I think I notice is that on the polyamory side, people often start from this place of this kind of utopic vision of love is infinite, we can have these deep relationships with all sorts of people, and that whether they have sex or not, and we're inclusive of people who are asexual or demisexual, all these things, this is great, and that's where we're starting from. And then over time, I feel like they start to learn, well, maybe some of these distinctions aren't such a big deal, and maybe we can have more casual sexual relationships as well. Like I feel like often poly people start off not doing as much of that, and
Yeah.
more being focused on the committed relationships, and then eventually realize like, oh no, actually casual sex is also valuable and good, and that's great. And then I think on the swinging side, what we see is people who start off very much like, we have our one relationship, and then we put up various rules and guardrails to prevent the other ones from infecting that or taking away from it or something. And then over time, they start to realize, actually, yeah, like relationships are relationships, whether, whatever we call them or however they go, like we can't help but connect to other people because we're human beings. And so then as they get more experience, they start to drop some of their guard about that. And that's where I feel like the two start to meet a little bit more in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
do agree they did. It is better now than it was 12 years ago,
Hmm.
and I say recently, maybe about 5 years ago. I started noticing that it was more in our community, a little poly here, a little poly there. And
Mhm.
so with that, um, it's kind of opened my eyes, kind of let my guard down a little bit because I see these relationships and I see these people and I'm like, wow, okay. And he laughs because I was always like, nope, we
She's
are
the cynical.
not.
So between the two of us, I love everybody and I
Yeah.
get along with everybody, but I'm also trusting of everybody, which obviously is a horrible, horrible thing.
Mm.
And she's my balance. And she doesn't trust anybody. She thinks everybody's out to hurt us in some way or another. And we definitely balance each other out. So that's why I had to laugh when she said she lets her guard down a little bit. No, she doesn't. She does
I'm
not at
trying.
all.
I am
That doesn't
trying.
happen.
I'm a little I'm a controlling person. It's and I don't know. It's something that I'm controlling. I'm trying to be controlling on everybody it's in my family, like my kids and everything. I try to not be, but
But
it's
she's come a long way. And
It's okay. As the
yeah,
resident, I think as the most controlling of the three of us,
But
I'm like,
all three of
yes,
us
yes,
are.
yes,
I
power.
That's
Yes,
what I
power
was
to
about
you.
to say, is that like all three of us are also sort of control freaks too.
yeah,
And I think the further you get in your journey of non-monogamy, like whatever shape that takes, you realize that a lot of this is about like foregoing that control and getting rid of it and allowing like other things to happen that you can't control, like feelings and like getting to know somebody better and having them be a larger part of your life. And I can imagine, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not in the lifestyle, but
Mhm.
that people who come back to each other over and over again within the swinging community, couples who come back to each other over and over again, you have to create some sort of relationship with them. And they may become more and more important to you over time. So I see with you, Chris, like, just a cycle of maybe right now you're perhaps dabbling in the thought of non monogamy. And maybe at some point in your life, you will be interested in that again, and it can ebb
Yeah.
and flow over time. It doesn't have to be static.
Yeah. The swinging part, I've always told them, I was like, the sex part is fine. It doesn't that doesn't bother me. It's the relationship part. It's the emotional part.
and for
Um
me, I can't
yeah.
have sex with somebody if I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a connection with them.
And I get that now.
And that was the tough part.
So something I've been thinking about a lot recently is something that Dan Savage said once upon a time, and I'm going to misquote him. I'll paraphrase it. That something along the lines of how there's an inherent chaotic, out of control nature to sex and romance. And through all of human history, we've been trying to account for that. Like we've been trying to control this thing that's really difficult for us to control. And that's
Mhm.
shown up in all kinds of different ways, whether that's monogamy in general, right? Like deciding we need to dictate that society is going to function on this monogamous basis because otherwise things are just going to get completely out of control. Or it's what shows up in, honestly, I think it still shows up in flavors of non monogamy, right? That it's
Yeah.
like, the swinging like lifestyle, you can have all kinds of agreements or rules or boundaries around who you can play with or who you can't. But also polyamorous people do it too, right? Around like, this is what's acceptable and this is what's not. And so it's like our attempts to control that, they're not necessarily bad, right? Because I don't think that we're necessarily served by deciding like whatever, all holds, no holds barred, just like do whatever you want, right? But I do think that being non-monogamous in general, again, whatever flavor you decide to practice, it does force us to confront uncertainty and what happens when things are outside of our control. And I think that's
Mhm.
really,
Yeah.
really interesting.
The hard part from the swinger end of it is that, and we see this often in our inbox, is that people who are swingers are often their biggest fear is, God, my partner might catch feelings. Like that's
Mm.
the biggest fear. And
Mhm.
from a poly standpoint, there's not a whole lot of polyamorous people who are worried that their partner wants to go have sex with other people because
Mm.
it's I mean, depending on what their dynamic is, that's probably okay. So it's one of those things where I kind of wonder on that end, do you guys have people that hit you up with the flip side of that?
Mostly what that makes me think of is what I've noticed is that sometimes people will get a little spooked or a little freaked out if they feel like their partner has a different relationship to dating and sex than they do themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kinda like as in, like, the coupling of one person who might be more in the mode of maybe demisexual, maybe, like, I really need to take some time to get to know someone before I can even consider engaging with them sexually, and so I like to take it really slow and really evaluate things and, then gets coupled up with someone who's like, "No, like, sex is it's a leisure activity for me, like, this is how I get to know people. I enjoy, like, having casual sex or dating really heavily or, dating a lot of people at once or having one-offs or going to play parties or whatever," and so that's where I sometimes see that tension is that sometimes you can interpret your partner's different style as, like, meaning something about you, and that's where people can run into trouble. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Now, you had mentioned earlier that quads are pretty hard. Is it because I'm assuming it's because different relationships, different personalities, the melting of them all kind of hard, especially if y'all are all dating inter-
Mhm.
interchangeable. um, I would assume that that's where that part gets hard. Do you like it better when it's just you and your main partner dating one person, or where do y'all usually see your relationships?
I think that that's something I want to clarify is that when we say that about quads being unstable, doesn't mean we don't like them or they aren't great. But if you
Mhm.
think about all of the just two-person relationships you've had in your life, and that most of us have had, right? That it's
Mhm.
hard to find that combination of two people that both are into each other and then that also over time both grow in ways that stay compatible with each other for very long. Like that's
Yeah.
hard to find just with two people.
Yes.
And then when you go to 3, you now have 2 or, 3 different pairings of 2 people,
Mhm.
plus how do we all get along as a group? That's all it can happen, but it's harder to do and harder to find people that, again, all 3 grow together. And then I think with 4, 5, that can get harder and harder. Just like thinking about probability. It's just harder to
Yeah.
find those right people. It's not that those don't work. They absolutely exist and they do, but when, the news covers polyamory, they always want to focus on triads or quads because
Yes.
Right.
that looks like what people are used to. It's like, oh, this is a couple that lives together, but there's 3 of them, right? Or there's
Yeah.
4 of them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever. Whereas in all of the research, including our own as well as other people's, the predominant model of polyamory or really all non-monogamy really is interconnected dyads, right?
Mhm.
So two-person relationships that one of those people has another relationship, that relationship has another one. Maybe they loop back in on each other sometimes, but those connections will sometimes break apart or reconnect, but that it's mostly made up of these two-person connections that all kind of interconnect with each other.
I never thought of it that way, but
No.
yeah, that makes complete sense because,
Right?
I mean, even in
See?
a triad, I mean, it's never a 100% fully equal connection all the way
Yeah.
around. I mean, it's pretty much impossible.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's a really great way to think about that. I'm gonna switch lanes here right quick because when I saw that we booked you guys, there was a question that immediately popped up, and I wanted to
Oh.
bring it up. The two different communities, we've had our leg in both of them, but there's one term that I've heard over and over again, and the meanings are different. Unicorn hunters.
Mm.
Um, in the swinging world, a couple looking for a unicorn is just normal. That's how a
Mm.
huge chunk of couples enter the lifestyle. As a matter of fact, a lot of people's first experiences in the lifestyle is because the woman is bisexual and the man is not, and so this is the easiest thing to seek out for them as their
Yeah.
first experience.
Mhm.
A lot of people that stay in the lifestyle realize there's so much more to it than that, and usually that's how you can normally tell when somebody's new to the lifestyle is that that's immediately and only what they're seeking out.
Yeah.
Right. That's where they
But
start. That's what feels
Yeah.
safe.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
feels safe. Exactly. But it's not as negatively viewed as it is in the poly community. And we're fully aware of why. Because obviously in poly relationships, that whole idea of bringing a third in and it is just taking away their identity and the fact that they have any kind of feelings that they bring anything to the table. They're more of an object.
Mm.
And so it's understandably so why the negative connotation. But how do you explain that difference to people when you guys talk about that sort of thing?
Well, to be clear, unicorn hunting is not like necessarily hated by everyone within the non-monogamous community. I think it is a thing that some people do. Some people enjoy being a unicorn. Some people like going out on dates and feeling pampered and feeling like they're the attractive one that gets to be doted on by a couple all night. And that can be a really thrilling and fun situation for a person to be in. But I think the challenge lies in when the unicorn has to be, equally liked, like we were just talking about, by both people. And if there are feelings stronger for one member than another, then that is maybe where some challenges come in and where, that person might get kicked to the curb because both of the party members, the initial couple, feel like, okay, this isn't something that we want kind of infringing upon our relationship. And so that person has to go. So, yeah, when they don't have any agency in the relationship, that's where the trouble comes. And that's where I think things tend to go awry. But if you're doing it ethically, if that person is someone that you both care for deeply and you maybe see on like a basis of, I don't know, whenever they come into town or something, it can be done ethically, it can be done well, but that isn't always what happens. And I think especially with newbies who tend to just come in and want like, okay, this is what we're looking for and we're not going to deviate from that in any way. And if one of us likes the unicorn more, or the unicorn likes one of us more, then we're going to stop. That's where the issues come.
Hold on. We need to tell you guys about 3Fun first.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so 3Fun is the app. You guys know the app.
And if you don't know, it's for couples and singles who want to connect with like-minded people.
And it actually works. Like, we're not just saying that.
It's easy. It's low pressure and it's way less awkward than trying to figure out on your own.
Way less.
We're going to leave it at that.
Yep. Download 3Fun. The link is in the show notes. Okay. Where were we?
That's where I had a lot of the issues as well.
I think that part of why there's such a different impression in the two communities of unicorn hunting is also to go back to where each community is starting from, that polyamory tends to be also more queer and also more kind of politically minded in how they think about their relationships. Think like feminist minded is kind of what I mean by politically
for sure.
in this case.
Yes.
And so in that case, I think there's also this issue that I'm sure you've run into this as well, but something that'll often happen with new couples wanting to open up is there's this idea that, oh, if we both together date a woman, somehow that's going to be safer or easier somehow.
Right.
And there's also this kind of assumption that all women are sort of bisexual. And so we've often seen these situations where the woman in that initial heterosexual couple is not really that bi, but is kind of feeling like she needs to force herself to do that because she likes the idea of this lifestyle or wants to have sex, but her male partner is just so uncomfortable with the idea of other dicks getting involved. And so they say, oh, well, women are safe somehow. And so I think that's where the aversion comes from. Because when I say it like that was yucky. I just said a bunch of yucky stuff, right? to treat it that way.
But that's exactly what I mean.
I mean, toxic masculinity
I
right. There it
say
is.
exactly what you said. I say exactly word for word on TikTok. Like it's true. It is exactly what it is.
Well, I know when we first got into the swinging aspect of it, I enjoy watching her with others. And, I enjoy watching her with other men. And the immediate reaction from a lot of men is, well, I ain't gay. Sorry, bro, but I ain't gay. So
Interesting.
you're going to be watching me bang your broad. You're going to, what do you want to suck my dick? I ain't gay. And it's like, pump the brakes there, bro. Like, it's not like that. And that's where you start really seeing, and that's people who are in the lifestyle, maybe a year, a couple of years, that toxic masculinity. Something that always has to be said is, oh, well, are you guys okay being around each other sexually? Maybe a little contact might happen. Like, we really have to talk about that? Like, we're literally all about to have sex, like, obviously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the toxic masculinity. I think it really affects a lot of the portions of ethical non-monogamy, and
Right.
pushes
Yeah.
it to be less ethical.
I think also, yeah, because of the starting points that it's like my impression, that unicorn hunters in the swinging space, and like this happens within polyamory communities too, but it's like starting from a place of like, oh, this is just kind of like fun or to fulfill a fantasy, right? That's a very different starting place from, I think, the reputation that unicorn hunters who infiltrate polyamory spaces tend to have is a little bit more of like, no, this is for real. Like, we want you to move in with us and like be in a triad with us and like help us raise our children.
But you won't get to
And
make any decisions about how they're
right,
raised or our house or our
right,
finances or
but you might
anything.
get kicked to the curb because like we've been together 20 years and you're just entering this, for
Yeah.
the first time,
And
right?
we've
That
seen
that
yeah.
yeah, exactly. That again, it's like this all falls on a spectrum between could be fun, could be really ethical. Everyone could be engaging in this in the way that they want to, and it's fine, all the way to like very exploitive and predatory, right? And I think that the polyamory community, when people enter that space wanting a unicorn, it comes across as a little bit more predatory because it's not just about like, oh, let's just have some sexy fun. It's a little bit more like, no, we're going to incorporate you into a structure that's probably not to your advantage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Something I wanted to hit on with that is just to say that I think both sides can go too far in their assumptions, and with that, like we said, with the swinger side, it can be this, oh well, women are safe for some reason, and I want to talk about that in just a second. But then the other part is on the poly side, that like what Dedeker said is there are people who like to be unicorns, like Emily mentioned, and to just say, oh, this is always bad is also painting with a really broad brush, right? Like,
Right.
I know that unicorns pretty much always mean bisexual women. Sometimes men can be called a Pegasus, I've heard before.
A dragon, I think it is.
Or a dragon, I've
dragon.
heard. But
Yeah.
dragon is used for the asexual
For the
community
ace,
too.
yeah.
Really?
So,
Okay.
See,
yeah.
that I did not know that.
They're dragons too. So that's why
Interesting.
Pegasus is the one that I've heard. Anyway, the point is, like, I had a stint being a third for a couple and I loved it. And the whole, like, I don't have agency in this relationship was part of the selling point for me. Is it sort of like, cool, I get to leave now and go back to my own place. I don't have
See,
to.
I have yes. You and I think alike. Exactly. It's like cool. I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that. Okay, go ahead.
But I did want to say one thing about the whole women are safe thing. And when I had this realization a few years ago when we were talking about this, it's really stuck with me. And it basically comes down to, for some reason, I'll let you fill in the blanks of the reasons, we really overvalue / overfear penises. And so if you
They
think about
are
this,
scary.
well, so think about this. If you think about like celebrities you've heard of that are bisexual of some kind, right? That generally speaking, if it's a woman who's bisexual, think like Angelina Jolie, we go, oh, she's straight, but sometimes she's had sex with women. And then if we have a man who's bisexual, we go, oh, he's gay. And it's like whenever there's a penis involved, that one kind of overrules ones that only have vaginas involved. It's like in both cases, we somehow think that one takes
real
over.
one.
That one matters in a way that if there's no penis, it doesn't. Which I think goes to the whole like one penis policy that people will have when their male partner just feels too freaked out by another penis being involved. All the way to the point where men can be so weird that they don't want their female partners to use sex toys because that's too intimidating to have another
I've known
penis
So
people
shaped
like
thing.
I was
that.
married.
Yeah.
My first husband did not like me to have sex toys. And
Dang.
yeah,
Gosh.
but then we would only have anal sex. And then that's when he bought me a toy. And I was like, oh, we finally realized he actually is gay.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I
Yeah,
was like,
we-
oh,
I see.
There it
okay.
is.
Yeah. But he was
Yeah.
so intimidated by sex toys. Like I could have a
Huh,
little like
interesting.
vibrator, but I couldn't have like a dildo.
No dildo.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We don't subscribe to that in this household.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that there was such thing as the one penis policy until probably about a year ago.
Well,
Mm.
I told you
Well,
about
you
it when we
told
were
me,
poly. Yeah,
yeah.
I told you that was seeing
But like
it
I
on,
didn't never knew anybody who actually.
like, people would put it in their dating profile
I was
apps.
like,
Oh, yes.
Like,
oh,
oh my God.
Really?
Oh yeah.
so
On Is this
sad.
on like FetLife or what is this
No,
on?
like,
Or
so that was
Field or?
on, I saw that on OkCupid.
Oh.
That's really where I would see it, was on OkCupid, because that's the one that I used primarily
Mhm.
when we were poly.
Mm.
And were you
And,
finding that more with swinger or lifestyle type couples or things like
uh,
that on there?
primarily, but the couples that I was seeking were more for poly excursions
Mhm.
than
Right.
anything else.
I just feel like it's
And
become such a dirty word in the poly community to
well,
say one
so
penis
Dirty word
policy.
here too.
well, so it it is. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. But this was COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
around
Now,
that time.
you saying that, do you think that swingers are dirtier than poly people?
A little trashier.
Like,
What do you mean by dirtier?
Like people
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
kinkier
Wait, are you talking the
or
good dirty or the bad?
Yeah,
You
what
know, I
do you mean
mean,
by that?
like are poly people, are they like more in their own little bubble as opposed to swingers? We're pineapples all over the place, as you can tell.
I don't write these questions, guys.
We're all about, we're all about not we're all about, but a lot of partying, a lot of
Mhm.
celebration. Um I mean, shit. Yeah, there's just a lot of activities all the time, and fucking themes on everything.
That's
So,
true. That's
we
true.
are
It's
the
true.
hey,
Has a theme, yeah.
we're
Swingers do
we're
theme things a lot
swingers.
more. That's true.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
swingers
Yeah.
and we're proud, right? Do you
Yeah.
find that more that we are raunchier than like
Well,
poly people?
Mm,
sure. I
It
don't know.
depends
Because the
on the
thing is that,
I
like,
don't know
person.
about that.
yeah, the poly
Yeah.
community also has this like Venn diagram overlap with the kink community. And I know the kink and this lifestyle
Exactly.
community
That's true.
sometimes have an overlap, right? And so it's like the raunchiness lives at the center of those three bubbles,
Okay.
right? Where it's not necessarily everybody within all those communities, but there is an overlap there. What it makes me want to talk about, though, well, first of all, I do think swingers are more fun as a community, I will say.
And we say
because
that as
things are
people
more
who love being
Thank
poly
you.
people and love our
Yes,
community.
Yeah.
loving poly, but I do think they're more fun. I think that poly people sometimes we can have sticks up our asses about like a lot of stuff and like too much to have any fun. So like I do think that swingers are just like more fun.
Okay.
But I think what we've seen, and this has influenced our show as well, and this sort of echoes, I think, what we saw in the U.S. around the fight for securing access to gay marriage,
Uh-huh.
is that if you look at the gay community, that's a community that historically has been a very like sexy, raunchy community also, right? Between bathhouse culture and cruising culture. But like when you're trying to advocate for rights, like, the campaign does not want to lead with that, right? Because we still live in a
Mm.
pretty sex negative culture. And
Mhm.
so it becomes
Right.
sanitized and becomes scrubbed down to like, oh, it's about love, right? It's about love. It's about marriage. Like we want all the same
You can
things
all
that you
relate
straight
to
people
that.
want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that we're gay. It's just that we're the same sex, right? And that's not wrong, right? That's all true, but it also does kind of sanitize. But there's also other parts of the queer community that are very sexy and sex focused, right?
Mhm.
And body positive. And I think we see the same thing with polyamory, that because often we're fighting so hard, like relationships often get dismissed as, oh, this is just a horny sex thing, right? This is just about you wanting to have sex with multiple people or have group sex or be in some sort of weird sex cult. That I think there is this implicit pressure within the polyamorous community on individuals to swing a little more sex negative and to be like, no, 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 it's not just about the sex. Like it is about these real relationships that are emotional and romantic and entangled. And maybe I'm co-parenting with multiple people or living with multiple people or like building these support networks. And again, it's like, that is true. And also it means that I think people feel pressure to scrub out some of the sexuality from it. Literally, we just ran a survey recently, and our biggest listener complaint is that we don't talk about sex enough on our show. So
Apparently, we're very sex negative. We don't mean to be
Yeah, so
necessarily. It's just like
right.
our show isn't. There are other shows out there
We're
that
not leading
are
with that.
Yeah, that are
Yes.
about the
Yeah.
sex, and we are less about that.
But
we
on a
like
private
sex.
level, I don't know. On a private level, honestly, like the number of parties that I've gone to with poly people that are only with poly people, like these are horny, raunchy people.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
For
sure.
sure.
For
I
sure.
just think
They're
on a
hot
public stage,
parties.
Yeah, people don't
Yes.
necessarily want to lead with that in the way that someone who's, like, proud to be a swinger might lead with that.
Yeah.
Well, so you remember when we were poly, and I remember specifically when we moved to Central Texas because originally we were from a small beach town in South Texas where the swinger community was incredibly small, and the swingers looked down on us for becoming poly.
Mhm.
Sure.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
wow.
we got judgment from the swinger community.
Yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
looking forward to moving to Central Texas because we knew that they had a bigger community out there.
Mhm.
And so when we did, we realized that the poly community was being judgmental towards some of the swingers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the swinger community. And I remember specifically, but this guy, there was good reason why he was being judged, if you ask me, because he was using the poly label, but he was really utilizing it for his sexual whims.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Mm.
he wasn't treating them as actual relationships. He would use them as sexual conquests, and then they'd be gone. So I completely get the judgment there, but I did sit on several meet and greets of swinger bashing,
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
and hearing stuff like that, and it's just kind of funny, being that I don't know. It seems like there's more swingers that are starting to entertain poly, especially
Mhm.
Yeah.
with at least on our side. We come across this a lot. And I want to say the number one question, and I'd really like to get y'all's opinion on it for those who have hit us up with this question is when you have a couple who is mismatched, when you have a couple who one person is just wants to be a swinger, just wants to have the sexual openness, and the other one is more poly minded and would like connection. What kind of advice would you give a couple who's dealing with that right now?
Something that we've talked about before on the show is this idea of if you're not dating anybody, can you still be polyamorous? Or if you only
Uh-huh.
have one partner, are you still polyamorous? And I always like to make the analogy of, well, if you're straight, but you're single, you're still straight, right? Or if you're a monogamous person and you don't have a partner, you don't really question, are you monogamous or not? It's more about like, these are my identity, my beliefs, my preferences, kind of all of that rolled into one thing. And so oftentimes when we talk about, couples where, one person wants to date other people and their
Mhm.
partner is like, yeah, go for it. Like, that's fine with me. I don't want to date anyone else. I feel monogamous with you. I would argue that they're polyamorous because it's more about like the freedom that they feel like the people in their relationships should have. And so I think with your question, that's what it comes down to is that in that example where they are mismatched, are they okay with what the other person is doing? Right? Like, do they feel like that's a valid way for a partner of their own to live their life? Meaning, if I just want to have casual sex and I'm with a partner who's fine with me doing that, and they want to have really long term committed poly relationships, and I'm okay with them doing that, great, no problem. But if it's that, but they judge casual sex as like, oh, that's for irresponsible people. And I don't do that. And then if I fear their relationships of going, no, but you have all these strong feelings, like that puts me at risk of you leaving me. I don't want you
Yeah.
to do that. Then that's just not a very compatible worldview for those two people.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's funny because that's the number one question that we get often,
Yeah.
and we've been in that situation. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
Chris has always been 100%, I don't wanna do poly. We did poly, and suffice to say, she did it more so for me, and I
Mhm.
initially thought that we were doing it more so for her because now you get to experience a woman
Mhm.
relationship, like a
Mhm.
legit
Mhm.
woman romantic relationship, not just sexual. And I felt like I was doing it for her, but deep down, I was also doing it for me because I wanted
Mhm.
to have these experiences as well. And I enjoyed it to an extent. She made it hard for me. She like she'll admit she made it hard for me because it was hard for her, so she was going to make it difficult for me. And even with that, I still enjoyed the shit out of it. Like I
Mhm.
really liked it. And we have this discussion all the time on our show, which is, well, would you still be poly if you could? And,
Mhm.
yeah, I probably would, but we had to come to a consensus
Mm-hmm.
because for me, the relationship has always been our priority. Like that's my
Mm.
priority is our relationship over anything else. And yeah, I'm maybe more poly-hearted, and this is the direction I'd love to be in, but it's not what she wants. And to me, that doesn't make me any less non-monogamous. Like, we're
Yeah.
still experiencing this together, and she's actually making her way that way, which is incredible. That's mind-blowing.
And
Um,
that's the other piece. It can change over time,
It
right?
Yeah.
definitely
That
can. Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's hard if you feel like you have to force yourself to change. But sometimes, yeah, you can just have
You
different life
know,
experiences that change
it
things for you.
it really is, and especially like talking to people in y'all's situation. It's I want to say you make it look so easy. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy, and I know there's lots of feelings, lots of emotions, like any relationship. But I get it now. Like I get it. We're swingers. I love that. But I guess I'm getting older, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to have connections now. Like that was
Mm.
fun. I probably should have had way more sex in my 20s than I did, but that's okay.
No, but you know what? I'm willing to bet that the sex that you have right now is way better than any
Of
Oh,
sex
for
that you could have
sure.
course.
had in your 20s. I just want
100%.
to
It
drop in
is
and say
For sure.
that.
way better. Yes.
Quality.
I know
Uh-huh.
how to guide now, so it's
Mhm.
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have a voice, I can say what I
she's
like.
found her
Yeah.
voice, which is really cool.
Hmm.
Because when we first
Hmm.
started in the journey, she didn't have a voice,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
it was really difficult to have those conversations. I really had to pull it out of her,
Mhm.
and so it took us several years, and really, it took us being poly to
Yeah.
realize that we
Hmm.
were not communicating as
As
good as
well
we
as we
should have
should
been.
be. Yeah.
Sure.
We
That's
thought
a
that
great observation.
we thought we were the greatest communicators ever. And we were in this whole poly situation, and that's when we finally had our final discussion. Because I always told her, I said, "Look, if we're just like swinging, if we're gonna do this,
Mhm.
if at any point one of us feels like we gotta pull the ripcord and I don't want us to do this, we can't do this, then you just say, 'We're done,' no questions asked," because my priority is the relationship.
Mhm.
Um Well, she pulled the ripcord for Polly, and
Hmm.
I didn't have an issue with it. I was actually kinda waiting for it because I knew it was
Mhm.
making her unhappy,
Mhm.
but I couldn't make that decision for her. I needed her to voice it for me so that we could say, "Okay, you're right. Okay, let's go ahead and step back. Because otherwise she's just doing it to make me happy. She's
Mhm.
doing it to make
Right.
me happy."
Yeah.
So she finally found her voice after that, and that was really
Mhm.
cool. But it kinda leads me into my next little area there because we realized just how much I was dealing with jealousy as far as from her. I'm not a
Mhm.
jealous person, really, but, she is. She's jealous enough for both of us. And, that was something that we always dealt with, and I never cared for the villainization of jealousy.
Yeah.
I think that it happens way too often, and they throw that out there. It's like, "Oh, well, you're jealous? Well, you're not
Mhm.
doing this right. You're
Mm.
Mhm.
not doing this right." And that always kind of bugged me. I don't view jealousy as anything bad. I think it just is something to navigate. We're
Mhm.
all humans, but I'm curious as far as you 3 and your experiences and what you've learned throughout your podcasting time and how you personally handle jealousy when it comes to your non-monogamous journeys.
Well, Dedeker happens to be writing a book on jealousy, so
Yeah? I'm
It's
sure
it's
it's a big
God, is
book.
it called
it's a big
Priscilla?
one.
Can you dedicate
I
it
want
to
to
this
push
little
back
man?
on your claim about not being a jealous person because, in my experience, I do think jealousy. So, first of all, what the research says is yes, of course, jealousy can fall on a spectrum personality wise.
Right.
However, they find that jealousy can also really fall on a spectrum just based on the relationship, right?
Mm.
So, you can be, and I think we learned this really on the ground if you're in multiple romantic partnerships, that you can have a partnership where you feel extremely secure, not very jealous at all, at the same time as you're in a partnership where you feel very insecure and very jealous, right? So my thesis statement with that is always like it's like everybody's got their price, everybody's got something. Everybody's got
Well,
the right
and you know,
conditions.
okay, so let me two things. Two things.
Thank you.
The first thing is if I really had to say that I was jealous of anything, I used to do stand-up comedy when I was younger, and she's my favorite audience. Like, I love making her
Aw.
laugh.
Mhm.
So when she finds somebody who makes her laugh, I'm like, okay,
There
that's
you go.
good.
Ha ha ha
See,
ha.
there you
Yes.
go.
But
enough of
even
that,
then,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
we laugh about it. It's not very heavily rooted, but the reason why, and you can add this to your statement, the reason why I don't experience jealousy very much, if at all, is because I grew up in an abusive household. And so I came from a very unloved household. I was never shown love by anybody in there. It was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive. From there, I was kicked out at 17. I lived out on the streets for a total of 4 years by myself out of a car and worked at a barbecue shop. So all of that whole experience, I always felt very unloved and very unwanted. And to me, the ultimate look of love is that this woman can go and enjoy every kind of experience, whether it be emotionally, romantically, sexually, whatever. And I really want her to have a great, wonderful time because she's going to come back to me. And
Mhm.
that
She's
is
still
the
choosing you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Mhm.
matter how good of it, she could find somebody who is better than me, has more money than me in every single way, no matter what quality is maxed out. And she'll always come back to me because she chooses me. And that to me, I can't, how can I feel jealous?
And so
You
he's
know?
always been like
Um,
that. I have not.
No, no way.
Mhm.
She's not
Mhm.
a compersive person. Would that be the word?
But
Mm.
tell me
Yeah.
what your thoughts are, Dedeker.
Well, I think what you're pointing out, Adam, makes a lot of sense. And yeah, this is also supported by the research that because I'm assuming that if like whoever Pris's favorite like really famous comedian makes her laugh, that it doesn't make you feel jealous. I'm assuming,
Yeah, no, that's a good assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? But if it's someone that
Like
is
local.
more yes,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
local,
Feels
exactly.
that
different.
brings that up.
Yeah.
And yeah, the
Doable.
research
Yeah.
yes, the research supports that it's basically the closer we perceive someone to be similar to us in whatever way, physically, socioeconomic status, profession, the more likely that we're going to feel jealousy rather than admiration, right? Or a sense of respect. So it's like similarity because from an evolutionary perspective, it's like, hey, this person is similar to me. I should be able to get the same things that they're getting. Why am I not getting that? Right? That's where it gets encoded in our nervous systems. So it like totally makes sense. But that's why I'm pointing out the fact that like everyone has their conditions that can create jealousy and insecurity, but that also means that everyone has their conditions that can create a sense of deep security and safety, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, yeah, I do think that like we can have individual differences personality wise that can make us more prone to jealousy or not to jealousy. However, I think it's much more important to look at our context of what we're in because I think that's going to be the biggest predictor of whether or not you feel jealous or not. Like I'm saying all of this to like remove the way that we can kind of give ourselves a hard time and feel like, oh, this is all my fault. This is all a personal failing. Like I just need to work on myself more or I need to be more enlightened, right? It's pretty much never 100%, oh, this is just your problem to solve and it's also pretty much never 100% this is all your partner's problem to solve, right? It's always somewhere in the middle there. That's one of my many thoughts.
And I agree. But I had to learn that on my own. You
Mm.
know, that if I didn't tell him what was making me jealous, he was never going to know. It was going to keep happening. So I had to at least give him that part, and we would meet in the middle.
Yeah, we've
And
always
it's
been
gotten
able to meet in
better.
the
Now
middle.
I can tell him exactly what makes me jealous. And it could be
Good.
the silliest thing, but
It comes out on the show.
and I tell him, I'm like, look, this sounds really dumb, but I didn't like what that girl was saying to you. So I don't want you talking to her when we go to the meet and greet. Okay. And he's like, all right, that's fine.
And I'm not a controlling person. So that's why I was laughing when you guys say all three of y'all are controlling and she's controlling. In a room of
So it's
all
4 against
5 of
1 is
us.
what you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Oh.
So basically, you guys figure out where we're having dinner later because I don't care. I'll eat wherever. I just kind of, for the most part, go with the flow, but she knows that if I push back, that it's something very serious to me. And, there's my thing is I don't like to be made to feel like a child. And so, I give her the respect of almost in a sense of ownership. Like we know that we don't own each other, even though we're married. We give each other that respect, that title. So yeah, she says that. Well, I tell him you're not going to do this, and it sounds very controlling. But realistically, if I spoke up and I pushed
Yeah.
against it, it would be a non-issue.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that we've always had that. And I know not everybody really adheres to that.
No.
But I don't know. That's us. I feel like I could take like another hour of your time, and I don't want to do that because I know you guys are busy. So, anyways, guys, before we let you go, tell everybody where we can find you, podcast, social, all of that. Whatever you can put out here, but if you wouldn't mind plugging you.
Absolutely. So Multiamory, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, Google Play. I don't know what else. We're on YouTube as well. Our Instagram is multiamory_podcast, and you can join our Supercast community as well by going there and looking up Multiamory Podcast.
Really, just search Multiamory. You'll find us all over the place.
And wait, we also have a book. It's behind me.
Yeah.
And I did the audiobook, so
Yeah.
I have to plug it because of that as well. But that's, wherever you want to find a book. Sometimes you can wander into a local bookstore and find it there as well.
Or you
And
can
then
request
also,
it at your local
It's
bookstore.
available on
there
Audible,
you go.
people. It's
And on Audible. Yours
Yeah.
truly is the one who did the audiobook, so there you go.
Beautiful voice.
You can specifically
you.
request it at your library as well. If you'd rather not
wow.
buy books, you
Nice.
can request it. Our library has a few copies in stock now, actually.
Real
Grab
quick,
a
what's
bite sometime.
happening? Like, what are y'all doing? You said, Dedeker, you're writing a book?
I am. It's currently out on submission, so I'm
Okay.
in the like limbo of waiting to see if a publisher is going to pick it up. So no one can really support it right now, other than just
Okay.
like manifesting and praying
gotcha.
and like lighting
We got
lighting
you, girl.
candles and
Yeah.
incense to make sure that I get like a really good chunky book deal.
Okay.
Hey,
That's
she
what's going
comes,
on with
she
me.
comes from that family background, so
Okay,
watch out
good.
now.
All
Good,
the
good.
good
Candles
There you
will
go.
get lit.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
You need it.
You guys
Yeah.
are awesome.
Uh-huh.
Well, all of that is going to go into the show notes, so nobody has any excuses. We're going to have everything there.
Yeah.
If any part of this conversation hit home, go find Multiamory right now. And if you're someone who was out here in 2016 just trying to figure this stuff out with nobody helping you, you're welcome. This is the episode that we needed back then. So
Yes, for sure.
yeah, you can definitely enjoy that one.
Yes.
As always, you can find us and all of our episodes at beyond-monogamy.com. If you want to hang with us live, we're on fullswapradio.com every Thursday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central. Come hang out. It is always a good time. And don't forget to mark your calendars for our upcoming Beyond Monogamy event at Club Eden in San Antonio on June 20th. And remember, you must purchase a membership to the social club in order to attend. We would love to hang out with you, but like I said, you gotta get that membership. Also, Crazy Winter Nights in Kansas City, February 19th through the 21st of 2027. We will be there. Use our code BEOMANO when you register for a discount.
And we're going to be at Naughty Nolans, people, this July 8th through the 12th in New Orleans. Come find us. We will have a Beyond Monogamy booth. We'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah. And if this episode meant something to you, share it. Send it to a friend who needs it. Leave us a review because you friggin' love us, man. You know you do. Subscribe if you haven't already. Every single one of those things helps keep us doing what we do. And we get to reach more people who are out there trying to figure this stuff out just like you. We see you. We
Yes.
were you.
Yes.
And with that, we thank all of you for joining us for another episode, and we will see you next week.
Bye.